The new Outer Limits and the Bela Lugosi few knew. Next. This week, it's a Bela-thon. We'll buzz with a star who's won an Oscar nomination for his portrayal of Bela Lugosi, Martin Landau. Then find out what Bela was really like from his look-alike son. Harlan Ellison takes on the book publishers. And you'll see how the new Outer Limits is pushing the limits of TV special effects.
Oh, incredible. Devastation.
Hey, buzzers, come on in. We're just buzzing here at Sci-Fi Central about Forrest Gump, and we're just getting ready to start whining like we do every year at this time about the fact that science fiction, fantasy, and horror always gets overlooked with the Oscar nominations. But, you know, a fantasy film, a good one, Forrest Gump, got through there somehow. I think it's so mainstream that it was overlooked by the Academy voters, who normally hate science fiction, fantasy, and horror. Hey, science fiction wins again with the Oscar nomination of Best Supporting Actor for, you guessed it, Martin Landau for Bela Lugosi Sr. in Ed Wood. Speaking of Bela, we have a Bela controversy with Bela Jr. later on the Buzz tonight. But first, the man who's about to become an Oscar winner, good old Martin Landau.
Too constrictive. I can't even fold my arms.
If Martin Landau doesn't get an Oscar for his performance as Hungarian horror king Bela Lugosi, it'll be a sin.
Mr. Lugosi, why are you buying a coffin?
I'm planning on dying soon.
It seems everyone agrees that Martin is absolutely perfect in the role. But be honest, before Ed Wood was made, how many of you would have envisioned Landau as Lugosi? Even Landau admits he wasn't an obvious choice for the part, because he's never been an obvious choice for any part.
If you hire Joe Pesci, you're pretty clear about the outline. I mean, he's a wonderful actor. I'm not, you know, but it's clear. Or Danny Aiello, or even Harrison Ford. You know what you're going to get. With me, you don't know what you're going to get. I mean, I'm not a typecaster's dream.
If you look at Landau's rich and varied body of work, it's hard to peg him as any particular type. He says it's taken the imagination of gifted directors like Tim Burton, Woody Allen, Francis Coppola, and Alfred Hitchcock to cast him well.
Hitchcock saw me in a very macho role in Paddy Chayefsky's first play on Broadway, Middle of the Night, which I toured with, and he saw me on opening night in Los Angeles, called me in and cast me in North by Northwest, in which I played a character 180 degrees the other way. And I remember asking him and saying to him, how did you see me in that and cast me in this role? And he said, Martin, you have a circus going on inside of you. Obviously, if you can play that part in the theater, you can do this little trinket. And I played a very quiet, contained, economical homosexual character, dangerous and brilliant, and I've never played anything like it before nor since.
So why did Tim Burton make the inventive decision to cast Landau as the legendary horror star? When Landau posed that question to Burton, the director responded that he thought Martin could identify with Bela's life and career.
And I asked him, I said, how did you come to me? He said, because, well, he said, you worked with the best in the best movies, and then you work in terrible, tacky movies with awful directors, you know, that had short, you know, not unlike that, yeah. And also you've been up and you've been down. I mean, emotionally you understand Hollywood and you've been around the block a few times.
Though it now seems as if Landau was born to play Lugosi, he says the role was no slam dunk.
And I had to learn his face. I had to learn what muscles. Our faces are different. My eyes open up wide, my teeth show. His eyes closed down. He has a black hole.
Despite the challenge of recreating a real-life person that nearly everyone is familiar with, Landau came through with flying colors. Now let's hope the Academy comes through with a statuette. The movie Ed Wood portrayed Bela at the end of his career when he was supposedly a drug addict and a washed-up actor. When he was younger, though, he was considered quite the movie star. So for the story about Bela, the movie star, and off-screen family man, we go to Bela Jr.
I still have memories actually going back to preschool when I was taken to see my dad's movies. And at that time, you know, the other kids were always afraid of the movies, and they'd be hiding under the seats. And of course, I was never afraid because that was just my dad on the screen.
I am Dracula.
It's been nearly 4 decades since his famous father passed away, but Bela Lugosi Jr. remains fiercely protective of the horror legend's reputation.
My father could be very frightening when he wanted to, but he's an actor, and that's acting. And at home, he was a wonderful father.
The bitter old man in Ed Wood bears little resemblance to the doting dad fondly remembered by his only son, a Los Angeles lawyer. So despite Martin Landau's much lauded performance, Lugosi Jr. has no desire to see his namesake portrayed in such a negative light.
You killed her. You killed her as I am about to kill you.
I don't think he was ever bitter about anything. He was not a bitter man. He loved his craft. He enjoyed life. He enjoyed good wine, good food, good cars, to travel. He enjoyed his family. He loved to read. So this was not a bitter man.
Lugosi Jr. also insists that, unlike the cursing curmudgeon in Ed Wood, his father never used foul language and was always the perfect gentleman on film sets. But even this adoring heir can't deny the frustrations his father experienced, branded as a Hollywood horror star.
For one who has not lived even a single lifetime, you are a wise man, Van Helsing.
He felt that he had talent which he could not express because no one would, after the Dracula role, consider him for parts where he could display his other talents. He loved the part of Igor in The Son of Frankenstein because, believe it or not, there was a few chances for him to give lines which were funny.
It's ironic that Bela Lugosi was never nominated for an Academy Award, yet the man who played him in Ed Wood has been nominated and stands a good chance of taking home the Oscar.
Death is my talisman, Mr. Chapman. The one indestructible force.
In recent years, superstars from Jack Nicholson to Tom Cruise have given horror films a go, but Lugosi Jr. believes his fastidious father would frown upon their performances.
With today's horror movies, I would think he would say that that's not acting, that anybody could do that. What he did is much more difficult. It takes a craft to give the sense of horror without the blood and the gore. It's much more difficult.
And who are we to argue with the son of Dracula? The Outer Limits is back, and so are the monsters, but they're more realistic than ever. Next.
There is nothing wrong with your television set. Do not attempt to adjust the picture.
We've all heard the expression, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Well, an audacious group of guys at Trilogy Entertainment are ignoring that maxim. They're the producers of box office hits like Backdraft and Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves. Now they've taken a classic 60s sci-fi series and given it a 90s facelift.
We will control all that you see and hear.
The Outer Limits will once again be taking control of our TV sets when the first of 44 new episodes debuts on the Showtime network next Sunday. And have no fear, executive producer Richard Lewis assures us the provocative nature of the original anthology series is ever present in the updated version.
There's tremendous reverence for the title and the subject matter because they were done very intelligently. It wasn't a slasher show, it wasn't a violent show, it was all intellectual by and large. So that makes it easy to get talent in, and Showtime's providing us with complete, from our point of view, creative freedom.
Many of the stories on the original Outer Limits capitalized on the fears Americans were experiencing at the time. The Red Scare, UFOs, nuclear holocaust.
We don't have that problem today. There are whole sets of other issues, whether it's internal, it's a DNA thing, it's AIDS. I think so if we can do the stories that are really core, frightening what-ifs. What if the person next door is different? What if you've got a disease? Or what if you have a chance to live forever? and how you deal with those issues. I think that's sort of fundamental storytelling.
Though the spirit of the original series permeates the revived Outer Limits, much has changed. The stories are being told from a fresh perspective, and 3 decades of technological advancements have helped heighten the visual quality of the show.
Charlton has to eat your heart out.
I've watched most of the original episodes, and in today's light, the basic concepts are good. They're sort of corny for me. You know, 2 robots walking down the hall with a wire sticking out of their head. In today's audience, you just go, forget it. It doesn't work.
The impressive alien effects in the premiere episode, Sand Kings, illustrates just how far things have come.
Sand Kings, for example, is a classic case. How do you create alien critters and make them look credible? So what we found is you start doing puppetry, and it's got to look real. And we sort of shied away from doing general puppetry because they were so small and went to computer-generated images, and they're pretty terrifying.
The original series became a showcase for rising young talent. And don't be surprised to find many of those now famous faces popping up on the new Outer Limits.
Our stories are all, by and large, new, though there are a number of actors who were in the original. Leonard Nimoy is going to do iRobot with Adam Nimoy, his son, directing. Emilio Estevez wants to direct Martin Sheen.
The original series will always have a devoted following. But Lewis hopes the new show's emphasis on terrifying tales that are only a half step from reality will tantalize a new generation of viewers.
We're heading towards the year 2000. We like to refer to it as a psychic waterfall. Everyone's sort of afraid what's going to happen. So I think we'll be breaking through in that direction and feeding into people's fears in a thought-provoking way. I don't think we're feeding off them to disturb people to go out and jump off a roof, but I think feeding into, oh my God, that could happen to me.
The World of Tomorrow, 1950s style, on Rocky Jones' Space Ranger. And Harlan Ellison's commentary, after this moment of rapture.
This is Rocky Jones in the Space Ranger ship Orbit Jet, to Ophiuchus.
Rocky Jones.
The 1950s was the heyday of TV space operas. The earliest of them were produced live and as a result were technically limited. Rocky Jones' Space Ranger was the first space opera shot on film, with what were then sophisticated production techniques. Since only 39 episodes were made, the series has been largely forgotten. But thanks to home video, it's possible to once again journey with Rocky and company through their black and white universe.
Boy, if we could get them back on Earth for a while, they'd come to their senses quick enough. Hey, maybe we could figure out a way to...
We go by the rule of freedom and a man's right to make his own decisions.
The 1954 series focused on a crew of enforcers for a federation called the United Worlds. In addition to Commander Rocky Jones, the group usually included Professor Newton, co-pilot Winky, blonde babe navigator Vina, and prepubescent Bobby. The steel-jawed hero, Rocky, was an explorer, soldier, diplomat, and a bit of a chauvinist.
Can't I go?
It's out of the question.
Why? Would that make it an invasion?
No, but it's not a picnic either.
I don't like picnics.
What I mean is a flight like this is no place for a girl.
The crew navigated outer space in the needle-nosed Orbit Jet. Though the special effects seem pretty hokey by today's standards, they were quite advanced for 50s television. The producers made the limited budget look less limited through their clever use of locations. For instance, an LA power station doubled for Rocky's landing facility. The tight budget also meant that all aliens had to be humanoid. Naturally, the aliens usually spoke English, even among themselves.
Our little prince is just strengthening his voice, so someday he may rule his people. I wonder if Rocky Jones will find our gypsy moons again.
Wait a minute, isn't that a German accent? Rocky Jones' Space Ranger reflected the Cold War paranoia of the 50s. The villains usually behaved just like the commies that most Americans believed were insidiously infiltrating our society. For example, the Ophiuchans used brainwashing to turn the good guys into emotionless robots, just as it was thought the Reds were doing.
You may change your mind, Bobby.
Rocky Jones Space Ranger bit the dust because at 25 grand per episode, it didn't turn a profit. Fortunately, it has survived the ravages of time to remind us what the future looked like 40 years ago.
This is Nick Bryla from Fort Carson, Colorado. I'd like to recommend Valiant Comics to all people out there that like to collect illustrated artwork. They tell some of the greatest adventure stories in comics, to include Magnus, Exo-Man of War, Solar, where you really have to do some thinking as well as enjoy the reading.
For all you buzzers out there who say you can't find our commentator Harlan Ellison's books anywhere, well, we're going to remedy that. Get out your laptops and I'll give you an address where you can order them. But first, we need to find out why we can't find Harlan's books.
One of the things that gets me crazy, and it gets every writer crazy, whether they're in this field or any other genre, is getting one of these letters from somebody in East Chittling Switch, Georgia, or some other center of great wisdom, saying, well, I know you're a great writer and I just love your works, but I can't find any of your books on the newsstand. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you why, dummy. You also can't find Joseph Conrad's books or Edith Wharton's books or Mark Twain's books. That's because this is a market-driven industry. If any part of that phrase confuses you, turn to the person next to you and say, what means that, market-driven? What it means is that the ad men and the marketing people and the advertising people tell you what will go and what will sell and what will not sell. Now, if I have a book come out today, a paperback, and it goes on sale, and they put it in the 7-Eleven spinner racks, right? Now, first of all, the top pockets of those 7-Eleven spinner racks are purchased by the big paperback houses. We're talking Pocket Books and New American Library, which is Signet Books, and Bantam and Dell. And that means that if you're in one of the lesser companies, you are stuck in one of the lower pockets. Now, you know yourself, when you go into one of those 7-Elevens or some other fast shopping place, you spin the rack and you look at what you can see. You do not bend down, because if you bend down, 27 people are going to trip over you and dump their Slurpees all over you. So that means that if you got a book in one of those bottom pockets, forget it. You are necky hokey, no price. You can't sell the book. But let's say that the book does get up into one of those upper pockets. How long does it stay there? What is that? A month? What, you said, what, 6 weeks? And you over there sitting on the sofa stuffing your face with Twinkies. What'd you say? What, a week? No. What you've got is 4 days. 4 days before they bring in the next batch of books. In the course of a month, paperback publishers will publish something like 2,000 different titles. Now that means that the only ones that are going to get really put on the top are Danielle Steele and Stephen King and Louis L'Amour when he was alive, and whoever is this month's flavor of the month, you know, like John Grisham. And that means that everybody else who is called mid-list gets shoved to the bottom. Now that's the ideal situation. You want to know how long it is in the biggest newsstand in America? First of all, do you know where the biggest newsstand in America is? No. Good guess, but no. I'll tell you where it is. It's at O'Hare Airport in Chicago. They have the largest newsstands in the world there. In those satellites, they sell more paperbacks per annum than entire cities, entire states. And you know how long you've got there to make it? How long do you say? What? 1 day? 2 days? 5 days? No, you got 3 hours. One day I was waiting for a plane. I was transferring heaven knows where, and I met the guy who comes around with the little cart, and he's dragging the slab cart behind him that's got all the boxes of books. And I'm watching him fill the pockets in these newsstands in the different satellites. And I said, how long can you tell when a book sells there? He says, you got 3 hours. He will load up a pocket. He'll put 4 of everything, and then he will go away. His rounds around all of the satellites of O'Hare Airport take him 3 hours. When he comes back, if he put up 6 copies of my book, and there are 4 still there, and he put up 13 copies of the Stephen King book, and there's 1 there, out come my 4, and in go 13 more of Stephen's books. Now, that's why you can't find any of my books. I got 59 books. None of them are in print at the moment. And I'm not the only one.
For a list of Harlan's books that are available, here's the address. Write to HERC, Post Office Box 55548. That's in Sherman Oaks, California. And the zip is 914130548. Simply ask for Harlan's book list. He also has audio recordings available as well. Simply say, The Buzz sent you. When we re-energize, we'll scrutinize some kinder, gentler CD-ROM games. In a Voices Against Violence Week, we decided to join the party by recommending 2 non-violent and very fun CD-ROM games. They're this week's Buzz Best Bets. First up is the hugely popular Myst from Broderbund Software. The award-winning adventure game begins by dropping you on an island where you set about unraveling the mysteries of this strange new world. One of the best things about the game is that, unlike so many similar CD-ROMs, players in Myst don't die or have any annoying time limits. It's just you, your brain, and an adventure that is truly, well, mystifying. Another great non-violent CD-ROM game comes from IVI Publishing, and it's called Next Step Mars. Based on the acclaimed public television series Space Age, Next Step Mars puts you in charge of making key decisions about the future of interplanetary travel. And to make those decisions, game players are put to the test through a series of activities that teach man's real-life adventures into our solar system.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Those are this week's Buzz Best Bets. Now, to the person who recently contacted me online, complaining that they don't like to see reruns on the Buzz, I just want to say this. Look at this staff. They've been working hard. We have had 7 straight shows, fresh shows, without a repeat. Take that. But look what happened to our staff. They're exhausted. So the Sci-Fi Channel is giving us 1 week off. We will be back Sunday, April 2nd, with a brand new show with Lori Petty's going to be here. She's the star of the new movie, Tank Girl. I'll see you then. Lori will wake me up.
The mysteries of aliens, the magic of Houdini, the miracles of angels. Now the real stories, people, and events are explained in a thrilling new series, Mysteries, Magic, and Miracles, hosted by Patrick McNee. Coming up next.